All right, Brooks, the big conversation right now has been the Nintendo Switch 2. Mm-hmm. People are like, how does it compare to modern consoles, namely the PS5, which I think is a big ask, right? I think whenever we've talked about it on the podcast, I've kind of compared it to probably more of a PS4. I think that seems fair. But on one of my favorite gaming podcasts, the Nintendo podcast, big fan. Shout out Wood and the boys, and Wood's wife, who's also really awesome. They found this comparison, and we're gonna check this out because I want you to see this.
Rip, I'm gonna play this, and off the rip, I want to say the fact that people can watch these two side by side.
Everybody says I look like the Rizzler. But we're different. We have different hair.
We syncing it up again?
We're syncing it up.
Which one's the Rizzler here? Which one's the guy? Is it Cloud?
Oh my god.
All right, I'm going back. Thanks for that.
The Rizzler,
Rizzler
is definitely Sephiroth.
Yes. Yeah. Cloud is.
Yeah, that would definitely be true.
100%.
Yep. The fact that people are even looking at these two side by sides and going, and people like legitimately do it. They're like, the background on the Switch one is less blurred because the Switch 2's GPU can't handle as blurry as a background, or the strands, you can tell by looking at the strands in Cloud's hair that the rendering is better. They are so close to the untrained naked eye playing them side by side. It's crazy that we can even compare it when the PlayStation 5 is literally a home console the size of a small PC, and the Switch 2 is a tablet. The fact that we even can compare it, and you have to point out like aperture settings of the background being the part that's different.
Wow.
Sorry,
they're also definitely doing the thing. Yeah, they're doing the thing that Max was saying is that they slow down the footage.
No, you can
so
tell they
like,
slowed it down.
Yeah, because they're just like, oh, look how bad the frame rate is. But it's like, okay.
No, it's slowed down. They're making it choppy on purpose. But I mean, 30 frames is 30 frames. I'm not the biggest fan, but like me as a frame snob, I can't tell the difference.
Let me explain this too for people that I mean, not that it really matters. This is just someone's Twitter video that are trying to get drama. But what slowing down the footage is doing is essentially the higher frames you shoot something in, the more you can slow it down and have it look really smooth.
Yeah.
So if you've ever seen a movie or you've seen like like
doing a lot of music videos,
like Quicksilver in Marvel when he like runs real fast and things go real slow. How they do that effect is by filming it in like 120 frames and then slowing it down. And there's so many frames because you shot it in such higher frame rate that.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm gathering is that the Switch 2 and they're Switch 2 and PS5, right?
Yeah, this is Switch 2 PS5 performance comparison.
So the Switch 2 is putting in some work.
Bro, that is 30 FPS on the Switch 2 versus PS5 60 FPS. So, like, he's right. When you slow it down to be the same slowness so that you can see, like, of course 60 FPS is going to be smoother. That's how frames work.
Yeah.
That's just how
that's just
video
film 101.
That's just how video works. So, like, yeah, of course it's going to be choppy on the Switch side. It's at 30 frames. And now, and I know and I understand a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I prefer 60. I agree. It is smoother. I 100% agree. But the thing that's crazy is that like Wood said, this is a freaking tablet.
Yeah.
Against a computer that's dedicated to gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it looks great. Like, and I mean, 30 to 60 FPS. We all prefer 60 FPS, but like on a tablet.
Yeah.
Like, okay, doesn't it support high resolutions if you're docked?
Yeah, it's 4K 30 if you're docked.
Oh man, I do wish it was 60, but like
I think it might be 1080 60 if you're docked.
Oh, I hope so, but like I don't know.
But the screen, like in handheld mode, it's 1080 60 locked.
Oh, that's fine. But
well,
like
up to 1080 120 maybe. I could be wrong about that. Part.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I know you can get 1080 60 in handheld mode, and I think you can swap the settings when it's in dock mode.
Again, being a FromSoft dude, when you play Bloodborne and then you play like Dark Souls Remaster or Elden Ring,
it matters a lot to have the higher frame rates. 100%.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I'd rather the quality be stuck at 1080 and have 60 than have like 4K and 30. Like I think frame rates, because it also affects the gameplay, because if it's really choppy, like some people argue that Bloodborne, if it was in 60 FPS, it would be too fast and it would like ruin the game. Because everybody's used to playing it in 30 FPS, because that's the only way you can really experience it unless you emulate it. Which that's being worked on right now to emulate Bloodborne at 60, which is, I think it's coming along pretty decently. But like, this is really impressive, I think, and I know
it's crazy to see, right?
Yeah, I know it is keeping up with the PS5, which he said it is like a little computer. It's like a mini PC.
Yeah. It's literally the PS5 is a dedicated PC for gaming, essentially, and the Switch 2 is like an iPad.
Yeah.
Let's watch a little bit more of this section.
Keep going.
You can see each frame really slowly. If you shot that in like 20 frames and you try and stretch it out, you have these 20 segmented frames that you're slowing down, and it's getting choppier.
It gets choppier.
Yeah.
So you slow down 60 frames and slow down 30 frames, it's going to look way choppier for 30 than it will 60.
Yeah, I mean, if you slow down 120 frames to anything more than like 4 times slower, right?
Yeah.
It'll be lower than 30 FPS, and you'll start seeing the chop.
Yeah, you can slow down 120.
You slow down anything enough, and it'll look choppy. Yeah,
you slow down 30 really at all, and it starts looking really choppy.
True.
Which
anything below 24.
That's not really rocket science to think about, because you think about what 20 frames looks, right? So let's use our brain here. Not that matters, but again, my point is the fact that we even can compare these, right? Like a Switch 2 console, which is a tablet console that you can play in your hand,
right,
as opposed to a at-home PS5 running in performance mode, and you're like, it's so
true.
Close.
It's pretty close.
It's so close.
There was a super chat from Pack Attack earlier that said a lot of people don't factor in the Switch or the Switch 2 being handheld when compared to consoles. Like,
that's crazy, dude.
Yeah, that's unreal.
That's crazy to think about. Yeah, 100%. You got to factor in the fact that like what is this for? It's for handheld gaming. All right, cool. So then let's look at it. What's about to happen? I, as a dad, am probably not gonna. I would love a PS5. Probably not ever gonna have a PS5 until my son is like over 10.
Yeah.
Just because that's just the nature of the type of games he's gonna want to play is Switch games. Cool. Unless I get a PC that can run it, which I'm not gonna do because I already have a very expensive computer for my work that I do.
Yeah.
For video editing and music production. I already have a very expensive computer for that. I don't need another $5,000 computer for gaming, for my hobby. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to play it on the Switch because it's available on the Switch and it runs fine on the Switch, and I can play it and enjoy the game
and take it with you.
And take it with me. But finally be able to just enjoy the game is more than I've had prior, and to have it look pretty good is all I can ask for.
Of course, like that's really all there is to it. And
people might be saying that's setting the bar really low. I disagree. I think the fact that they've been able to fit this into a handheld console is a work of crazy proportions.
Yeah, I think so too. Like just being able to condense freaking the Final Fantasy remake.
It's a massive game.
Yeah, it's just put it in there and run it on the Switch. I think that's pretty impressive.